Welcome to Block Time, produced by Riot, a podcast where we take a deep dive into topics around Bitcoin, Bitcoin mining, and energy grids. Today we've got an OG Bitcoiner, OG podcaster, Gary Leland, organizer of the BitBlockBoom conference that is coming up, and so we'll talk about that. Welcome, Gary, to the show.
Hey, nice to be on the show. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you since I was down there for the Riot tour some time ago. I'm sure a lot has happened since I was down there, since it was just a big hole in the ground in an empty building.
Yeah, a lot has happened, and now we're building that second site out in Corsicana. That's very exciting to see that. So we wanted to have you on. First of all, because we go back quite a while to the first BitBlockBoom conference that was in Dallas, I believe in 2019? 2018. Now I'm really feeling old. Okay, so 6 years ago.
Yes, this will be our seventh BitBlockBoom.
Yes, and what prompted you to kind of start BitBlockBoom at the time?
I guess that's a long story. But basically, I just wanted to meet more Bitcoiners, so I started a conference. I guess if you really get down to it, I felt like that was the easiest way to get to talk to them. You know, as you said earlier, before we were talking backstage, I've been in podcasting since like the beginning. And I always found the thing about podcasting was when I wanted to meet someone new and ask them questions, I could just ask them to be on my podcast. And they'd come on and I could ask them all the information I needed and get private tutoring. So I guess BitBlockBoom was kind of like that. I could bring down these people I wanted to talk to and meet that were Bitcoiners, and I could have one-on-one time with them. It's kind of maybe a hard way to do that, having a whole conference, but that was what kind of did it.
Yeah, it's like when you ask a friend to have coffee, except you ask 300 people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the same thing. But, that was a good event for being the first one we did. We didn't know what in the hell we were doing, and it was a good event, I think.
It was a fantastic event. Yeah.
Made a lot of friends that are still friends to this day, like yourself. So, yeah, I like conferences. I like going to conferences. I don't really like... necessarily, I'm not one of those guys sitting on the front row taking notes of the speakers. I like going and meeting people and networking with them, and making connections and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting because Bitcoin does attract some folks who are from lots of different backgrounds, and quite a few of them are rather accomplished, right? They've succeeded at lots of things in life, and their interest in Bitcoin is aligned with a certain kind of almost cultural ethos that develops for those who want to go beyond just buying on Coinbase or now just buying the ETF, and who are attracted to go to a Bitcoin conference. I always find some fascinating personalities in that audience.
Yeah, I think the thing about Bitcoin is it's such a wide mix of people. More so than podcasting. Podcasting are people who are kind of extroverted. They want to be on a show or something like that. Where Bitcoin can be anyone who is interested in self-sovereignty and money. And once you go down that rabbit hole, it opens you up to so much stuff that you could have someone who quit high school and someone who's got a doctorate in finance, and they both can end up talking on a pretty even level about Bitcoin. And no one's going, oh, you know what you're talking about. You dropped out of high school. And the guy goes, you're not, you're a schmuck. You got a doctor. I mean, they all get together, and they all want the same goal, and they have the same interests. It's really kind of an interesting group of people, how together they are and how quickly they merge, even though they have such totally different backgrounds and totally different concerns other than that one concern, Bitcoin.
It's interesting too. Every time I go to a Bitcoin conference and there's kind of a networking event where there's more than 20 people, it is so loud because there's so many animated conversations going on simultaneously. It's a cacophony.
Yeah, for sure. It's for sure. And the talking never stops. One thing also I've noticed from doing this conference, this is the 7th year, we have a lot of open bars at our parties, but no one's really getting drunk because they want to pay attention to the conversation they're having. So they may have a drink, but I've never in 7 years had to roll someone out or take someone's keys or worry about them getting home because they just don't want to get drunk. They want to continue the conversation, and they know they can't. So, yeah, it's a different crowd than most conferences to boot.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you learned about conferences from putting on BitBlockBoom for so many years? How has it evolved?
I don't know. That's a good question. I needed to be prepared for that one.
That's all right. What about the location? Because I know that has evolved.
Yes. Well, we did, as you know, the first 4 were in Dallas, which were good because I live close to Dallas, and we went to Austin for the last 2. Now we're coming back to Dallas. Austin. Wow, like Austin, it's just too damn high. It's too expensive there.
Yeah.
I mean, I was able to lower the price of the hotels by 35%. I was able to lower the price of the tickets. I mean, everything's cheaper in Dallas, and Dallas is a great place to come in its own. It's just Austin is so expensive to do a conference in. So not only did we move it back to Dallas, which was cheaper for us and the attendees, it's close to my house. It's 30 minutes away instead of 3.5 hours. So if I have to do something with the conference, I don't have to drive all the way to Austin. So that's a big plus too. So Dallas is a good thing. And we've moved it to April this year, to try to get closer to the halving. And we're going to start doing it in April every year afterwards from now on. We aren't at the halving. I think a week ago, I calculated that if the hash rate dropped to 9 minutes, it would block time. Then it would happen during BitBlockBoom, but it hasn't dropped to 9 minutes yet. So I guess that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so that would mean that we need to add more hash rate to make time go by faster.
Yes, that's it. So if y'all could just bring
we'll
a bunch of
work on that
machines
for you, Gary.
online, and then stages, and in 2 weeks when it goes up, add the next batch on there. We got to keep it at 9 minutes. But
Roger that.
I think it was close as I could get to the halving. But the main thing was there were so many conferences in the fall now up here. Oh my gosh! If you start with July 1st, Bitcoin Magazine's conference, there's literally almost a conference every weekend. And I like going to conferences, and I was getting sick of going to conferences. So I had to pull out of August and come to spring because there really are hardly any conferences in the spring. So it put us as one of the first conferences of the year in April. So hopefully people are going, I've been to a conference in 4 months. I need to get over there.
Yeah, I definitely feel the plethora, the abundance of Bitcoin conferences we have. I think we at this point we might have more conferences than podcasts, but the thing is
definitely
that,
more than podcast conferences.
Yeah. What I like about Dallas as well is that it has a very large airport that's a hub for airlines. And so I remember the first BitBlockBoom I went to, I would talk with people and it would be a coin flip as to whether they were from Texas or not. So many people flew in from South America, from Asia, from all over the world because Dallas is just a destination that you can easily get plane ticket for and you don't have to worry about transferring and connecting and all of this.
Yeah, that was another positive about moving to Dallas, is you can catch a direct flight to Dallas from almost anywhere in the world, to be honest with you. Where Austin, you can catch a direct flight, but it's not as easy and it costs more money. So that was another money-saving thing there. But that first year, Pierre, I think we actually had more people from out of the U.S. than we had from Dallas, at least ways.
Yeah.
And Dallas was a block away.
How are ticket sales going for this year?
Ticket sales are going good. The thing is with this year's event, I normally have a whole year to sell tickets. This year we have 6 months to sell tickets. If it's even 6 months, 6 months to sell tickets. So we got half the time period to sell tickets. So it's a lot more work this year selling tickets than it is because we've sold out. Last year we sold out the 2 years previous. So last year was the first year we didn't sell out, but you saw that venue. I could have put 3,000 people in that venue if I wanted to. So there's no way I could possibly sell it out. I wasn't wanting to. I'm just saying I could have put a ton of people. I think we'll sell out this year because we did the last 2 times we were at this venue. I think we sold out. So we should sell out. People really like this venue. This was a great venue. Funny story. I saw Saifedean last year in Miami. And we just happened to be walking by each other, and we stopped and talked. And I just said to him, I said, hey, I want to thank you for coming to BitBlockBoom back in 2018. That was the first one. Didn't really know what I was doing, but you came to the event, and I really appreciated that. And he goes, well, gosh, that was my first book signing. I wanted to tell you for thanking and let me come sign the book at your event. And I was going, I didn't think about it. I didn't know it was your first thing, too. So we've had some good names at BitBlockBoom.
Yeah, and to our audience here for the Block Time listeners, I'd emphasize that, as Gary points out, Bitcoin history does get made at BitBlockBoom, and the tickets will sell out. So make sure that you pause the podcast, go buy your tickets, and then hit the play button again.
Oh, and use the code BBB1. That's 3 B's for BitBlockBoom and 1, and get yourself an extra discount there. So make sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary.
And Pierre is going to be there this year. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. And I had someone contact me the other day, and they said they were coming to Dallas the Monday of the conference for the Eclipse. There's like a total eclipse of the sun that comes through Dallas. And they were coming for the Eclipse, so they said they're buying tickets because they figure while they're in Dallas, they might as well come to the Eclipse. So I'm telling people, if you're coming to Dallas for the conference, you may want to come a day or two early and see the Eclipse.
That is fascinating. I might have to do that as well. I love that stuff. We just need to remind folks, don't stare directly at the sun, please.
The only time I've seen a total eclipse, I was like 10 years old in South Carolina, and we had big tubs of water, and our parents got us, and we would look at the reflection of the sun in the water, in the tub. Because we were we were too poor to afford smoked glass.
That's good. All right. Well, I'm glad we covered astronomy on today's podcast. I was worried we wouldn't get to.
Well, I'm going to make sure we got that in there.
Yeah. Thanks, Gary. Come a couple days early to Dallas. Enjoy the Dallas lifestyle and the eclipse, and then the conference and the halving. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do, and I appreciate you having us on the show to talk about BitBlockBoom for sure. I want to tell people, if they ever get a chance to come see this Corsicana plant you guys have, they need to come. You just can't realize how big this thing is. I mean, you hear it's the biggest in the world, but until you see it, you see what's going on there, I don't think you realize how big the biggest in the world is. I mean, you've already got the biggest in the U.S., I think. Now we're going for the biggest. The water holding pond, you could put sailboats in there and sail around. This is a big place.
I completely agree. I think the sailboats would be fantastic. And I'm a sailor myself, so I'd be happy to take a little dinghy out there. If I get permission from David, I guess.
Get some Hobie cats to put out there on the shore, and people can go sailing during their break.
There we go. That way, people won't complain about our water usage if we have our own lake.
Yeah, for sure. There you go. Yeah, you're doing.
They'll find something else to complain about.
Yeah, you guys getting complaints down there?
I mean, from one person, so okay. It's not. There's always going to be somebody who has thoughts about what other people are doing. So that is part of building. And I agree that while Gabe's videos and pictures are fantastic, nothing does justice to the size of the site other than actually going there and driving around. And I agree that we want to have more people out there. We're also, though, 100% focused on building it so that we can get as much hash rate online as possible in 2024. So that'll be exciting to see in the monthly updates.
Yeah, I'm curious. I need to go online. I'm curious to see how much has happened since I was down there. Because, like I said, really, for the most part, it's a big hole in the ground and an empty building. Lots of stuff going on. You can tell lots of foundation stuff, plumbing stuff.
Yes. So on kind of building A1, they've put down the foundation. Now they've put up the walls, or they started putting up the walls, and so we're gonna see that develop very quickly over the coming weeks and months. So yeah, I agree that it is very exciting industrial scale site for 1 gigawatt.
Getting off of that for a second, you were in Bitcoin when I first got in Bitcoin. I mean, you were already in Bitcoin. When did you get into Bitcoin?
Yeah, great question. So I got curious about it when I read about it in 2011. So this was also when I started my mining journey, which was that I downloaded the Bitcoin software and I looked for a button to press to mine Bitcoin, and I couldn't find it, and I closed the software, and then I forgot about it for a couple of years. So that was my first near miss, right, of mining some early coins. And then I came back to it in 2013 when I started hanging out with Michael Goldstein, aka Bitstein, down in Austin. So really got into it in 2013. And, at the time, though, I was a broke college student at UT Austin. And so I was accumulating student loan debt, not Bitcoin. But I really wanted to learn about it because it hit that intersection between accounting, which was what I was studying in college, and computers, which I was kind of just naturally curious about. And what about yourself, Gary?
2017. I had heard about it in 2013, I think, or 12. Someone tried to explain it to me, but they told me it was like online stocks. And I said, well, I'm not interested in that at all. And so I just didn't think about it again. And every time I see them, to this day, because I think Bitcoin was around $100 at that time, I stop and say, do you know how many millions of dollars you cost me with your stupid online stock shit? Excuse my language, but and he always goes, well, you were an old guy. I thought you would understand that better than trying to tell you what it really was. I said, well, thanks. I appreciate your explanation there. Then in 2017, I was walking down a hallway at a conference I was speaking at about podcasting. I was speaking about podcasting, and these people were talking about Bitcoin, and I got through half the conversation. And I asked the guy who was doing all the talking, I said, hey, could you go over that again? I missed so much of it. And we spent the entire rest of the day from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock talking about Bitcoin. And the next day I bought Bitcoin. But, he explained it as... Go ahead.
Yeah, what it was about that conversation that made it so much more compelling than the stocks metaphor?
Yeah, well, at the time, or my background is I started building my first e-commerce site in 95. And everybody said I was stupid. People wouldn't buy stuff on the internet. So I said I'd buy stuff. So I don't know why no one else would. So by this time, 2017, I had probably 30 e-commerce sites. So e-commerce was a big interest to me. When I was walking down the hall and I ran into the conversation, he brought up the word that Bitcoin was the first protocol for money. It was the missing protocol for the internet. And when he said protocols, the internet, that kind of piqued my interest. I don't know if any of the other guys, I don't think any of the other guys there, they just walked away I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't think they got into Bitcoin to this date. But that's what really appealed to me, which a lot of people think that sounds stupid, but it's the fact that it was an internet protocol, and I was making my living, for the most part, off building websites. So I said, I need to find out about this if it's something for the internet. So...
Yeah, I think that's something that gets underlooked because in the mainstream, you have the stocks metaphor. You also hear people say it's digital gold. But there's a Jack Dorsey quote saying it's the native money of the internet. And it's kind of, if you think about the internet as like a foreign country, like when we use dollars on the internet, we're kind of bringing our dollars from the fiat world into the digital world. Whereas Bitcoin is like, that's what that's what you ought to be using on the internet, not dollars.
Yeah. My friend who was explaining it said it was the only protocol missing from the internet was one for money. And about the chance, then he brought up the scenario if you could have owned a piece of email, and that all started making sense to me right away. Like I said, I found that real interesting.
Do you have a view on how do you think that e-commerce has been adopting Bitcoin more slowly or faster than you expected?
I think it's actually doing it pretty fast. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be overnight, since most people think, so many people in those positions think it may be illegal, in the big companies. They aren't going to be putting something on there to take a chance to lose some big company going to jail. But I think now with the ETFs, people will start having a change of attitude. But I think Bitcoin is moving a lot faster than podcasting did. I can tell you that right now. Because I was in both of them from the get-go, basically, and not so much as Bitcoin as podcasting. My gosh, I used to ask everywhere I went, because I was into podcasting so big, do you know what a podcast is? And it was years before anyone told me, yeah, they had heard of it. They've heard, and I think he said, I know what it is. I said, really? This guy said, what is it? And he goes, it's for fishing. It's you cast the pod out there. So it's growing at a super fast rate, I believe, compared to podcasting, which nowadays every person in the world, I think I did my first podcast in 2004 maybe, so what is it now, 20 years later, every person in the world knows what a podcast. You'd have to be hard not to find a person that knows what. Everybody has a damn podcast. I mean, so if you give to where we're at now with Bitcoin, I think most people know what Bitcoin is already. And now it's the next level's hitting. I think we're getting ready to have a wave of stuff hitting with now that ETFs are here. People are going to start buying ETFs, and they're going to start going, why don't I just hold this myself? Why am I paying these fees? But I think it's growing pretty fast.
Yeah, I thought your comment about the ETF kind of providing some legitimacy, or at least removing FUD around the legality of Bitcoin, that's really interesting, because we think of the ETF as kind of a store of value improvement for Bitcoin in some ways with the financial system. But as you point out, if it helps small, medium, large businesses start accepting Bitcoin as a medium of exchange because of that halo effect, the reputational improvement it has from kind of having the BlackRock stamp on it, and the SEC stamp on it, which I know they're not happy about, but that actually could accelerate the use of Bitcoin as a currency.
Yeah, and also with the ETF here, you had people like, I was talking to someone 2 months ago or a month ago, they wanted to buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, but they didn't want to pull it out of their retirement funds, pay capital gains, take that loss, and then buy Bitcoin. So they were waiting on the ETF, because then they can move it over, without paying those capital gains. So I think it'll get a lot of people in there who are in that situation too. They want to get in Bitcoin, and not that $100,000 is a pretty sizable start, but they don't want to lose, let's say, 20%, as soon as they pull it out, or whatever the tax penalty is for capital gains. So I think it's all in all a good thing.
Yes, I mean, at today's prices, $100,000 is 2.5 Bitcoin, which is 250 million sats. I mean, you're a quarter of your way to being a sats billionaire with 100 grand. So that's a good chunk of change.
It is a good chunk of change. That's a good chunk of sats.
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, everybody can't have one, even if every millionaire can't have one. So it's just a matter of time. But things are looking good to me. I mean, like I said, but after you go through enough bear markets, you really don't look at it with the same eyeballs anymore, right? We were talking about that before stage. You kind of like, okay, it's down, whoop-de-doo,
Yeah, 1 BTC equals 1 BTC.
Yeah. It's just a matter of getting to that point that, because I remember when I first bought it, it was dropping, and I was going, I made a mistake. Maybe I need to sell this. And I was calling people I knew. I was calling the guy who got me in it. Another guy going, hey, this stuff's dropping. And they go, you're just going through your first bear market. Calm down. It'll be all right. I was like, okay, I'll stay calm. and they were right. It did.
Yeah, I feel like it's been my experience every time I buy some Bitcoin, the price goes down afterwards. So it's just it's.
I think that's
brutal,
a common thing. I think that's a
Yeah.
common thing. There must be something about buying Bitcoin that a lot of us do it at the same time. Because every time I buy it,
yes.
just about, I feel like that.
We have that herd mentality. We're social animals.
Yeah, because
the
I'm
other
down on my
aspect-
last I'm down on my last Bitcoin I bought. So, I mean, but I'm up on the
yeah.
second to the last one.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. The other interesting thing I think is that when we look at the past year of Bitcoin's price action, if you remove the 20 days, the best 20 days, then the Bitcoin price did not go up at all. And so the gains are really concentrated on particular windows where it's like, hey, if you're trading around and you're not in Bitcoin when it rips, then you're really, timing the market is going to be extremely difficult. And so that's where it just makes a lot more sense to just stay invested.
Well, yeah, for sure, because Bitcoin does rip. When it rips, it goes. I personally never sold any Bitcoin. I was on a show the other day and with I can't remember what Bitcoin did with Peter, and I was telling him that, and he goes, "Well, what are you saving it for?" And I was going, "Well, I don't know." It kind of caught me off guard, but I was kind of going, "Why would I spend Bitcoin when I still have fiat to spend?" I mean,
Right.
And I would cash it in for fiat and just put it in the bank and then spend the fiat I have already. I mean, if I run out of fiat, then I'm going to, I guess, cash it in. But until then, I don't know why I would cash it in.
And if I knew what I wanted to spend it on, I would go spend it. But
Yeah.
the thing is that I don't know what I'm going to spend it on in 15 years, or in 20 years. Who knows? So I think that's the thing about savings. It's like it's a big question mark, right? And people sometimes are uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, and my wife is uncomfortable with the fact that we're almost 70. She goes, "We're going to die without ever spending any of this." I'm going, "Well, what is it we're not doing that you wanted to do? I mean, is there something I'm missing a boat on? I mean, our house is paid for, our cars are paid for, we do whatever we want." I said, "So what is it that we're missing out on by not cashing it in?" "Well, I don't want to just be saving it until we die." Well, if we need some money, we can cash it in. Just let me know.
Okay, Gary, I'm going to pitch you on some things to spend your Bitcoin on.
Okay.
What about going on a cruise?
I like cruises, but I would still have to pay fiat for that. I have enough fiat to afford that. But I like cruises. I've been on a lot of cruises. If you go like during school year when all the kids are in school, they're fine.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, don't go in the summer.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. Let me know next time you go on a cruise. Maybe I'll join along with my wife, and we'll leave our kids at home.
Yeah. I think, and I thought about doing it once. Someone needs to get together a cruise, a Bitcoin cruise.
Yeah, they have thematic cruises like that. That'd be fun.
And you don't have to have the whole ship, just a package that a lot of Bitcoiners are using at the same time. Like you get 20 or 30 people just hanging out on, because I like cruises. Obviously I like eating. You can look at the size of me and tell that. But, I have a good time on cruises all the time. So I haven't been on one in a few years. But, and some people need to cash in their Bitcoin. I understand. I'm just lucky I'm not in that situation. And who knows? Next year I could be in that situation. You don't know what life brings.
Gary, I had a quick question for you, not to back up too far, but you mentioned that your introduction into Bitcoin was through a podcasting conference. I wanted to ask, do you believe that there is some sort of inherent overlap between podcasters and Bitcoin?
No, I really don't, but there's a real similarity between them. I don't know if that'd be overlap or not. I used to feel when I went to early Bitcoin stuff, it was like going to early podcast stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm saying. But the way people were acting, for instance, in early podcasting, oh my gosh, anywhere you went, people were trying to help you, like get your microphone hooked up right, or give you advice on how to do this, how to monetize your podcast, whatever. They just are pouring over backwards to help you. And that's the way Bitcoiners are, true. They'll tell you how to set up your wallet. They'll explain anything you need help for. So there is a lot of similarities between the two. So maybe the answer is yes, I'm not sure. But there is a lot of similarities between early Bitcoiners and early podcasters and Bitcoiners as we know it today, which may disappear in 5 or 10 years when it becomes mainstream enough like podcasting has.
I've got my answer to Gabe's question, which is that they're both permissionless. You can just launch your own podcast. You can record whatever you want, upload the MP3. You don't have to get, a stamp of approval from the government censor or from the network executive, right? Like you don't have to go to ABC and be like, hey, I'd like to pitch you on my show. It's like, no, you just go on the internet, do it.
Well, that's true. In that aspect, they are both permissionless. Yeah, but early podcasting is a lot like Bitcoiner, though. Like I said, they all want to help each other. And I used to be amazed people would send me edits, for things. Like they'd spend all day editing my site. I'd get all these notes, and I go, oh, thanks,
I think that what also kind of broke podcasting into the mainstream was Joe Rogan and kind of the size of his following that he was able to develop over many years, right? That when he started Joe Rogan Experience, it was like, 0 listeners, and he built it up to millions and got onto, a sweet Spotify deal. So I guess maybe in Bitcoin, what I feel like sometimes is that we haven't had a mainstreaming catalyst like that of somebody with a really big following.
Yeah, or maybe that Netscape moment, type thing. And we could have that soon. I mean, on this bull run, you don't know what bull run that's going to happen on, because it's going to happen. It's like in Twitter, when Twitter first started. I got on Twitter, I think it'd been open 6 months or something, I think, if I remember correctly. And I remember everybody going, if only we could get someone like Britney to use Twitter, or they'd be naming these famous people. If they just would get a Twitter account, it would make all the difference. Twitter would become well-known and popular. And now everybody has a Twitter account. But that's what I mean. The people who were number one user accounts on Twitters were all computer geeks. They were all geeks until it went mainstream. And that's kind of how Bitcoin was. And now it's becoming mainstream, and it's less geeky people in there. They're more regular people getting into it. So it's following the same path. Same path that podcasting followed, that Twitter followed, that Net followed. It's following its path perfectly well, and maybe at the fastest rate we've seen out of any of them.
Well, I think one of the things is that you can buy some Bitcoin and see the value increase. You can't just buy a podcast and see the value increase.
Yes, you can. You're correct. And the funny thing about that, if you talk someone into buying some Bitcoin, and you go, look, you just need to buy some of this. Buy $1,000 worth, $500 worth, $5,000, whatever you can afford. You need to buy some. And you leave them alone, and you go back to them 6 years later, they go, oh, I don't know. I haven't looked at that in 6 years. They just bought it because you asked them to, and it's just sat there for the most part. So if you want to get someone into Bitcoin, you not only need to get them to buy it, you need to get them buying it on a regular basis so they keep looking at it and seeing how much it went up in value. Because they don't. Every time I call someone who I talked into buying it in 2018 or 17, they go, oh my God, look how much it's worth now. They have no idea. They haven't ever gone back to it because it wasn't that big a part of their their money that they put into it. It was just, okay, I got this extra I can throw it into. I'll throw it in there because you said to do it, Gary, and then they forget about it. So not only, do you feel this is kind of like an orange pill tip, I guess, or whatever, but, not only do you have to get them to buy some Bitcoin and get some skin in the game, you got to get them buying on a regular basis, whether it's dollar cost averaging, which is the easiest way, but $10 a month or whatever, but they need to do it on a regular basis so they look at it more than once when they buy it and don't look at it till you call them again in 5 years.
Yeah, and perhaps that's also an area where the ETF will help, is that if people are looking at their brokerage statements and comparing the gains on Bitcoin versus their other assets that they have at their brokerage, it will turn on some light bulbs, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. I would think that's a good way of looking at it. It's just a matter of, I'm just curious, the people who've been buying these ETFs right now, are they going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I bought that damn ETF. It's been going down ever since I bought it, because it went up to like 49 when they were announced. Now it's 39, 40,000, whatever. Are they all going, oh, I can't believe this, and pulling out, and so BlackRock's selling it to them, buying it back from them? I mean, yeah, they probably are happy with it dropping. They get to buy it all back and make more money, off the fees.
Yeah, the trading volumes have been immense, and I think there's a lot of people also that are selling GBTC because it has a high fee and buying the lower fee alternatives as well.
Yeah, and I guess that's due to the fact they couldn't convert that to an ETF.
They did. I think it's due to the fact that Barry Silbert is profit maximizing.
Oh, well, that would make sense too then.
Yeah, he knows that he's got a captive audience, so he doesn't have to compete with 20 basis points. But yeah,
I think they only got like 25 or 30,000 Bitcoin left to sell, right? Am I wrong on that? I mean, they've been pumping a lot out of there, so I mean, they got to be getting close.
Yeah, I'll take a look after this. 'Cause it's a fascinating kind of development that people were not expecting.
What's really surprising on that is, or not surprising, but really shows you the strength of where Bitcoin's at right now. Not have we only had Grayscale just selling tens of thousands of Bitcoins. We had SBF, or whatever it is, that exchange, sell a bunch. And we're still sitting at $40,000. I mean, if you take how much Bitcoin has been sold since the ETFs come out, it's still sitting at $40,000. That's pretty damn good. That's like a 20% drop from the high, which is nothing, for Bitcoin.
Yeah. And I think that the other part is where we are in the cycle, right? That we're still pre-halving. And so if we look at these ETFs kind of over the longer term of the next few years and going into the next cycle, I think that's really where we'll see them adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, but I don't know. With the ETFs and the new rules being made for Bitcoin, I wouldn't be surprised if all the old models are just thrown out and it just goes berserk. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening right now that was never anticipated this quickly, that happening to me at least ways. The ETFs, one of them. I never thought we'd ever see those at the rate that was going.
And it's fascinating. We saw El Salvador adopt Bitcoin before an ETF, right? Which is fascinating to see. And now we're seeing that perhaps Argentina is going in that same direction. So we're seeing more nation-state level adoption, or at least a legal tender.
And I think Max is saying Qatar is going to buy 1 million Bitcoin or something. That would be a heck of a purchase. But I've been hearing him say that for about a month now, so I don't know what to say on that. But yeah, Bitcoin is one of those things that, of course, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I mean, it just takes a long time to see. But the rabbit hole it takes you down, and the things that change in your life, whether you're a person or things that change with a nation state once they get into Bitcoin fixes everything and changes everything. So once you see it, it just changes everything. You don't want to piss money away. Because you want to buy Bitcoin.
Yes, exactly. And I think that some of the anxieties have been about Wall Street capturing Bitcoin with these ETFs. And I actually think it's the opposite, right? You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. And so we'll see the same happen with Wall Street.
I have to agree with you. Yeah, you don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin does change you. Yeah, Bitcoin is a funny thing. It changes your whole perspective. It changes everything, whether you're, like I said, whether you're a person or a company or a state. You were saying how El Salvador, got onto it, but how about Michael Saylor too? My gosh, that guy just was a buying machine. He has been a buying machine through the bear market, through the bull market. That guy's a buying machine. And now I'm not sure of the certain laws, but laws have been changed, accounting laws for companies that hold Bitcoin. So that should be a big positive for us to boot. Yeah, I just don't see any backwards motion coming in long term. I think it's all uphill. Like I said, I'm 70. You know what? I got about 10, 15 years left before I got a drool cup in a home or a maid here taking care of me. But you know, I've got my kids. They've bought Bitcoin. Any young person should be. I always say you need to quit drinking your beer, quit smoking your cigarettes, and spend every extra penny you have on Bitcoin until you get at least one. And if you don't get one, that's just the way it works. But you need to know that you bought every Bitcoin. Every bit of Bitcoin you could afford to buy, and you weren't just pissing that money away. Because believe me, when I was young, I liked to party, and I liked to drink, and I liked to smoke cigarettes. But boy, I think I would feel about the same way if I knew about Bitcoin. I would feel the same way. Because I ended up quitting all of them anyway. But I think Bitcoin would have caused me to quit and start moving it into Bitcoin sooner.
So, something else that I see younger folks waste their money on is motorcycles, cars.
That's a very specific dig. Thank you.
Well, you know, and cars are a real loss. I mean, you know, I'm just still driving my car after. Yeah, I'll give you a great story on cars, as a matter of fact. We sold a business, gosh, 10 years ago. No, maybe 6 years ago. 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And it was a very good sale for me. So Kathy wanted to buy a brand new Lexus. That was her deal. I'm going to get a Lexus. I'm going to get this brand new Lexus. So she spent like money on this Lexus. And then I said, well, I'll just take your old car, you know, and sell my car. Because her car was better than mine. It was an older, well, it wasn't older then, but it was a Mercedes. And now it's an older Mercedes. So she bought a Lexus. I took her old Mercedes. And I said, well, I'm going to take the amount of money you paid for your car, and I'm going to buy Bitcoin with it. And she bought, the car was like $50,000. So now when we get in that car, she goes, I still just love this car. I go, yeah, this car though only cost us like $250,000. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
And it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. So I'm going, you know, it's like the friend who talked me into Bitcoin or told me about it and explained it. I understood. He was an early adopter, and you know, he had maybe he got it in a nickel or a dollar or whatever it was, and so he had a bunch of Bitcoin he was mining on his laptop back then, and he wanted to spend some Bitcoin because it was internet money. And so he wanted to spend some Bitcoin. So he bought a pair of sunglasses. And I don't know how many Bitcoin he paid for those sunglasses. It was a lot of Bitcoin. He still has those sunglasses. He has them on his fireplace as a reminder. And he'll show people and say, want to see a $100,000 pair of sunglasses? Or whatever the value is.
Yeah.
So that's his reminder not to spend his Bitcoin.
That's right. And there's also if you do spend fiat, that is an opportunity you missed to buy Bitcoin. So in a sense, every time you spend any money, you're spending Bitcoin that you could have accumulated. So it's something really important for people to keep in mind day to day as they think about their financial future.
Yeah, you really have to decide if you want to, on a lot of things, piss that money away or buy Bitcoin with it. And anyone who I think really understands it doesn't want to piss money away if they could buy Bitcoin.
I think it's also an opportunity that only arises every couple thousand years of, hey, we're going to have a completely new monetary system, and you have the opportunity to participate in it. You know, that's it. Arguably, it's unprecedented, and arguably it will never happen again. So it might just be a once-in-history opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely won't happen in my lifetime again. Like I said, I only got 15 years left, so I won't see it again. But you're right. It's something we've never seen, we'll never see again. And, you know, but the thing is, you can talk about that till you're blue in the face, orange pilling people. And you're not telling them that because you're wanting your price of your Bitcoin to go up. It's not like you're going, oh man, if I could talk John into buying 1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I'm going to make some money today. But you're doing it because you really want to help them out, because you see the future and you want them to be able to take advantage of it. But it's amazing how many times in the past I've told someone about Bitcoin, And I've spent a good bit of time with them because they ask. They got to ask now. I don't bring it up unless they ask. But still, when they ask, sometimes I go into it too deep. So I try all the time to get better. But after you explain it to them and give them a good enough understanding, then they go, well, how do you make money off me buying Bitcoin? And I have to go, well, I don't. I'm just trying to do you a favor, dude. You asked me about it. So, it's not multi-level or something. It's funny the ideas people have.
Yeah, it's the most organic, like grassroots thing that started as open source. I mean, to me, that was what was also very compelling about it as someone who was into Linux and kind of that world of, hey, let's write our own code. Let's not be subject to the corporations. I think that, people think there's a Bitcoin CEO and that there's lots of people, that somehow benefit. But even, it would take a lot of buying to move the price. So I don't think I've ever orange pilled someone sufficiently that the price went up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you would have to do, you'd have to like orange pill Michael Saylor, and he buys it all at one time instead of over a 2 or 3 year period.
Yes. Maybe now the next target would be like Tim Cook. He's got a good amount of cash on his balance sheet.
That would be. You would think that they would want to put it into something like that. But I don't know. That's just me because I'm the damn bull. That's all I want to put it into. It's just a matter of, another thing that has gotten me several times, I found out the hard way, is I would explain to someone would ask me, a good example is my old landlord. He said, hey, Gary, you're really into this Bitcoin, aren't you? I said, yeah. And he goes, can you tell me about it? So I said, sure. I spent like 15 minutes giving him a really good, brief analysis of what it was about. And when we get through, he goes, well, Gary, do you have one on you? And I'm going, oh, my God, I really did a bad job, didn't I? If I explained it to him and he wanted to see one, I missed out some important information. You got to pull out your hardware wallet, Gary. I missed out some information there. I said, yeah, I'm always carrying around 40 grand with me. No, I just...
Yeah.
But the fact is I missed that. I thought I did such a good job explaining, but I didn't explain that it wasn't one of those old coins that you see on Fox News in the background all the time. Which I think that part messed it up a lot. A lot of people think that's a Bitcoin.
That's true. And, I remember there was a conversation about Bitcoin mining on an island. And the guy from the island replies, I don't think that there's any Bitcoin here. It's like, okay, you're right. But, we just need electricity.
Yeah, we just need electricity. But, Bitcoin pretty much has changed my life. I was telling someone that the other day. Not only has it financially helped my life out, but the amount of people I know, now that I consider friends all over the world. I can pretty much go almost anywhere in the world, and I know somebody. I was in Portugal, and I got off a train at Lisbon, and someone had a sign up with my name on it, and they spent the day with Kathy and I giving us a tour. But I could go about anywhere in the world. And when I was in Barcelona, someone contacted me and said, hey, can I come have coffee with you in the morning? So not only has it changed, like I said, financially and the amount of people I know, but actually it's changed more than anything my way of seeing things. I really never knew what money was. I had some, I earned it, I spent it, but I never understood money. And I think that Bitcoin, the rabbit hole Bitcoin takes you down, really opens your mind up and helps educate you on what money is. And then when you talk to someone who hasn't been down that road or doesn't understand, it's like the difference between night and day, But that's the biggest thing about Bitcoin to me.
Yeah. I think for me, my biggest change has been around don't trust, verify, which is that anytime somebody says something now, I just take it with such a big grain of salt of, well, I mean, I'd have to see it for myself and I'd have to run the numbers myself to believe what you're telling me right now. And especially with journalism, because there's been so much false reporting about Bitcoin that now I'm like, well, what else are you not quite hitting the truth on? And, it kind of raises the verification question.
And then also, you sit back and you look at people and you go,